Hello, this is Kylie Koo. Welcome to my studio. I've literally just finished my Love Notes lookbook from last Sunday, but I want to move on to get this week's project done because I need to get a week ahead because of some other things that I have on. So as this is week 2 of the month, we are going to do a project that involves recycling, repurposing, reusing, or a use your scraps. And of course you could use any contents of your flowish journal if you made one of them in January. So I still have scraps sitting here from my lookbook project, little bits of card left. I've also got a page that I've taken out of my flowish journal, my resource folder. Other little bits and pieces, still some piece of those fabric. I'm not necessarily going to use them all, but what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to stick with the prompt of the month, which was love, hearts and Valentine's, and I'm going to make some heart ATCs. Now, the recycling bit of my project is I'm going to use part of this cereal box to actually sit as part of the ATC. I'm going to put those red cards behind it and I'm going to use that blue page to the front of it. So artist trading cards, ATCs, are 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. So just cutting the cereal box down to size. And I'm going to make 3 of these. And then what I'll do is I'll take those pieces of the kind of red-orange card, I'll cut them to size as well. Now that that's done, I'm just going to use this gloss Mod Podge to glue the backs of the card, which are the red pieces, to the cereal box. And this is just going to make my cards a bit thicker because the backs, the red, is just too flimsy on its own. So this will really make those cards have a bit more body, a bit thicker. Now that I've got all 3 done, all I'm going to do is put a bit of deli paper on top and press them firmly down just to make sure that they're fully adhered. So I've got this piece of copy paper, the blue, that I had previously done on the jelly plate. Took that out of my resource folder, but it is quite thin copy paper, not much body to this at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to layer on some of that gloss Mod Podge to this as well, and this will just help strengthen it a bit because I will want to tear it, and if I was to tear it just now it would probably end up tearing in ways that I don't want it to, but I want to have some torn edges on it because I'm making kind of grungy heart cards, so I want it to have torn edges because I don't like straight edges on a lot of things. So this will really help stiffen up this particular piece of paper. I use the heat tool to dry it as quickly as I can. I do the underside as well because I always feel that that then helps dry the kind of underside of the glue. So now that that's done, it's still a bit tacky, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is take my cards and glue them down. So I'll do it onto the back of the paper. I decided at this point not to rip the paper up. I'm just going to judge where I'm going to get some nice pieces of that blue page. And again, I'm just going to use this gloss Mod Podge because I have it to hand. I'm just going to use that and stick down the 3 cards. So I'm just trying to make sure that there's a bit of a blue edge going to be totally around the card. Could have cut it up beforehand, but I just thought this might be quicker. So I put that off to the side, and then I just take another piece of the cereal box and draw a heart. This will be a template so that I can make 3 cards virtually the same. So just making myself a little template that I can then draw around. Now I wanted, if possible, to use the same card as I had on the back of the card, so that red orange coloured card, but I wasn't quite sure that I would have enough. So just looking here at the scale of it in terms of the size of the card, making sure it's okay. I remembered that from last week I had the little bit where I did the kind of test, so all I'm going to do, I had stuck that down with a glue stick, so I thought if I heated it up I would probably be able to pull that bit of tissue paper off, and it did. That worked fine. So next I'm just going to try and measure out if I can get 3 hearts from this one little piece of card. So you see me here just trying to work out how I can do that, and I figure that I can get 3, so all I'm going to do is draw around the heart. And I managed to squeeze 3 in just. They were pretty close to each other, but that's okay. And then it's just a case of cutting them out. Once that was done, I decided just to leave the cards so that the paper would dry fully before I started to tear them apart. So I actually left this overnight. It was getting late in the day anyway, so it felt the right thing just to leave it. So back next day. And my work table is in the same state as I left it. But here I have my 3 cards and they're all nice and dry. So all I'm going to do now is to start to pull them apart. So I make a rough fold, but I want it to tear unevenly. I just didn't want it to tear and go right down the card itself, maybe tearing some of the paper off the card. So just doing that with them all, tearing round, and then I'll shorten some of the ends on them. Now that that's done, I'm going to fold those edges over. I start with the long side. That one was a little bit neat there, but that's okay. I will adjust that later. So just folding those over, and then I'm going to glue those long sides into place. I think about using the Mod Podge, but I actually changed to 3-in-1 glue. So I'm just going to use a little of this down the sides, just the length of the actual card. I don't take it beyond that. And then I'm just going to fold those over. And I do that with all 3 cards. Once that's done, I'm looking at whether or not I want to fold the shorter lengths in. Now, if I just simply fold it over, it could be quite bulky. So I'm just going around the edges and kind of cutting out those corner pieces. And this just means that when I fold the top and the bottom down and across the card, it's going to be less bulky than it would have if I just folded it straight over. What this also does, of course, is again to add strength to the card, especially given that I've got now 3 pieces of paper all glued together. Just shortening that a little bit more, and then I'm just going to use that same 3-in-1 glue just to get these down and into place. Notice a little bit sticking up there, so I just trim that off. And I like the way that that's looking. So again, I'll do that to the other 2. paper is slightly wrinkled on the front, but that's fine. I think it just adds to the texture. Now this piece, I noticed I had a black line along it, so all I'm going to do is to take some scrap pieces and add them on where I think it's needed. Just where it was either a little bit thin or where, as I say, I had that black line on one of them. So again, this is also using up little scraps that otherwise might have, well, I wouldn't throw them out because I never throw them out, but they would sit just taking up space somewhere. So glue that down, and then again I will glue the little bits on the other two. So now it comes to actually looking at the hearts, and I'm looking at this and thinking, feels like it needs something just a little bit more. Looking at the fabric that I used in my Love Notes lookbook, so I thought a bit of that might be nice to incorporate, but I didn't feel that it was right with the red of the hearts. So I've got this little bit of, I guess it's a sort of burlap. Looking at that, I cut it for a piece for all three, and I'm liking it, but it's feeling a bit too stark. Not shiny, because it's obviously not shiny, but too new looking. So I decide therefore that I need to grunge it up just a bit. So I pulled out this Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray the pieces of the burlap. It's in tattered leather, this colour, so it's going to give me that nice kind of grungy look to it. I don't want it to have an even coating, so you know, I'm not concerned if it's all covered. Decided it was better to spray directly onto it. And of course this gives me very messy fingers, but never mind, they will wash, or it will come out eventually. It doesn't always come out right away. So I've done that, and at that I decided that, well, I've got some white edges on my card. So I had been going to use the burnt umber fluid acrylic to get rid of them, but since I've got this spray out, I will just go around it. So just sprayed some onto a piece of deli paper using a tiny bit of sponge and just darkening up those white edges. I also end up just taking it over the card just a little bit. There again, you can see me doing those edges. I then used some just to go round the edges of the heart, because of course this had been cut out of that piece of paper, so the white edges were shown. And then what I did was actually put some of it on the front of the heart. I wasn't sure how well it would sit on the front of the hearts, because of course it has that gloss Mod Podge, so I thought it might just slide off it. But yeah, it seemed okay. I did give it a dry with the heat tool, and again this was just about grunging the hearts up a little bit. So dried everything off with the heat tool. At this point I decided I would go round the edges of the card, and I just take it a little bit over the card as well, since I knew it now worked on top of the gloss. I thought, well, it's okay to do this. So again, just using this as another layer and to grunge up a little bit. And then it's time to assemble. So I'm going to put a bit of burlap on each card and just slightly offset the heart. So it's just kind of leaning a little bit to the edge, to the side. Again, just using the 3-in-1 glue. Initially, I will just glue the burlap into place. I don't mind if the kind of frayed edges stick up a bit, that's okay, I'm quite happy for it to do that. So put that down and into place, then it'll be a case of gluing the heart down. And just putting that directly on top of the burlap. And again, I'll do that with the other two cards. I've used some tissue paper, I've just signed it, put the date on it, and just gluing these down with Mod Podge. So these are my Grungy Heart ATCs, and these will be going off in the post, well, as soon as I can get to the post office. So I do hope you like them. A nice quick way to do a Valentine's theme as well. So of course I'll leave a link to Nina's video below. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Do take care. See you again. Bye.